There we go. Is that going to work? Brilliant. Okay. It was suppressed. It was just an emote. There we go. Hi guys, and welcome to another dungeon video. I hope you guys had a great New Year and a great Christmas. We had 2 weeks off, but we're back on schedule now and continuing on with the dungeons. So first we're going to read out what happened on the last dungeon, which was actually completely forgotten. What was the last dungeon we did? I can't remember. Oh yeah, Vlogs and Excavations. Okay, so this was the cool one with the dredge, and we dug too deep and we found an ancient city. Again, like I've said this before in the series, really they don't say that much in the pages after a while, which is a bit of a shame. But the Vlogs and Excavation. Sorrow's Furnace was not the only place where the evil stone summit had pressed the dredge into forced labour. Deep within the Vlogs and Excavations, Dredge toiled away under the watchful eye of their Stone Summit taskmasters. On the surface, this dig appeared as yet another ore mining operation, but clues hinted that the Stone Summit had uncovered unspeakable horrors. They were using slaves to excavate this ancient evil. With the help of some escapees, we confronted this horrific presence and stopped the Stone Summit's wicked plans. Okay, so yeah, I really did enjoy that dungeon. This next one is also a very cool dungeon. And basically the whole thing is one massive reference to Red versus Blue. So if you guys are fans of that, I'm a big fan of that, then you'll probably enjoy this quite a lot. What it's called is the Bogroot growths, and to complete it we need to go up to Gad's encampment. So I'm just going to check with everyone, make sure we're all ready to go. I'm pretty sure we've got a full team of new people, unless someone's lied to me and told me that they've not been before when they really have. So this is pretty cool. So 1 second. Alright, we look good, so let's get going. One thing I actually wanted to do for this video that it didn't end up working out, as you can see in the party window. Obviously the Elementalist update's gone live. I did do a did I have a link to that? I'm pretty sure I linked to it at some point. I did like a podcast thing with 2 friends from the guild, and we talked about the Elementalist update. It was this huge update. I thought, and I talked as well in one of the earlier dungeon episodes, how I think it would be cool if we started like all using like a certain skill or like having a theme for a dungeon or something. So like at the last minute for this episode, I just tweeted out and said, hey, everybody bring Elementalists and we'll see how the new Elementalist works. And that would have been so cool, but unfortunately we only ended up getting one guy. There were a couple of Elementalists, but they were people that had come before, and I always want to sort of favour the new guys. No, nobody walk out there just yet. So yeah, we'll make sure we're all loaded in. Basically, we're going to the Bogroot growths. In the Let's Play on Tom, I did show you the northern areas of Sparkfly Swamp, and it's all the way up here in this top corner. So I'm going to cut the walk until we get there, and then we'll speak to the NPCs up there. And you get to make a decision as well, which is pretty cool for this quest. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a second. Yeah, I'm really not sure I filmed this far up in the Let's Play. I don't think I did in this corner at least. I know I did over there because we saw Saja's ashes and stuff, but not up here. But anyway, you'll see over here actually there's a tree trunk going across a chasm, and there's a portal behind there. There's also 2 Asura here. This is the cave that I talked about before. Wow, I just instinctively pressed my hero flag button and then clicked behind me as if it was going to flag my heroes. I like completely spaced on the fact that we had a team full of people here. But basically that cave there, that's the one that I talked about that will actually take you through the battle depths and is like a shortcut to Gad's encampment if you really want it to be, which is pretty cool. But over here you'll see that it's a dungeon in itself, and you get, most dungeons obviously they all have their own quest, right? You get the quest and that takes you through the dungeon. But for this one you get 2 quests, and you get to pick one of them before playing through. So you kind of get a choice here. You get Griff and you get Tex, okay? You'll find all of the NPCs in this quest, right? They all have names that when you say them out loud sound exactly like characters from Red versus Blue, which is pretty cool. So obviously Griff and Tex, if you've watched it then you'll know obviously who they are. I don't know who we're going to pick here. I'm just going to read out both dialogues and then ask the team who they actually want. So I'll go with Griff first, since I prefer Griff to Tex. The Red Gokir frogmen were recently displaced from their natural homes due to that bumbling Tex's fuzzy math. This normally wouldn't concern me, except I'm doing important research. I believe the freshly secreted slime off a Gokir's back can be used to create an entirely new fuel for my creations. To my dismay, they relocated to this cave, the traditional home of the Yellow Ophil tribe. Now, some ridiculous tribal war has brought my research to a screeching halt. I couldn't care less about the beasties either way, but Gokir don't create slime once dead, and the day-old junk just won't do. So be a good little booker and destroy the Ophil leader, Cabus. Without a tribal leader, they should flee, giving me the chance to get back to work. I'll make it worth your while, what do you say? Okay, so Tex isn't the girl for me, count on me for the red team, or no way, I know what frog slime is really for. Or you can speak to Tex here, And she says, the caverns are a natural home for the Ophel tribe of yellow frogmen, but the Gokir tribe moved in recently as a result of some miscalculations during our last digging expedition. Unfortunately, yeah, your miscalculations. Unfortunately, the Ophel had been helping me to map this region, but now this clan war is hindering any chance of progress. Without them, I'll waste weeks of work mapping the area by hand. While this may be most unfortunate for the Gokir, you must help me out. No, help science out. God destroy Zimmons, their leader, Simmons. That should demoralise the Gokir tribe and drive them off to find a new home. Okay, Griff doesn't deserve my help. I'm in for the yellow team. Okay, or blue team. Right, so I don't actually know. What one do we want to pick, guys? In the end, it doesn't actually matter which quest you do. You get the same chest at the end, you get the same rewards. I think maybe one of the quests might be easier for speed clearing or something like that. But basically, this tribal war we're going to be seeing in here, it just changes which side of the tribal war are allied to you and which aren't. Nobody's replying. Well, nobody knows what the hell they want to pick. Okay, so we're going to go with Griff. That's democracy for you. There we go. We're going to go with Griff. Tech isn't the girl for me. Count me on the red team. Okay, sweet. So we're on the red team. There is another team actually racing us. We had quite a high turnout today. I think that's mostly because, A, we had the break, and B, I put out that little video explaining that dungeons were back on. So I think there is another group of people going through. Okay, so I think we're ready with Griff's War. So here we go. Our goal is to defeat Caboose and his minions. Brilliant. Okay, so Bogroot growth. Let's do it. Alright, here we go. So hi guys, welcome to the post commentary. A word of warning for you straight away as we start here, going into the Bogroot growths. If you are going to be playing this with other humans, right, in your team, be 100% sure that everyone in your party only has one quest, and that quest is the same one for everyone. Because what happened with us here is some people took 2 quests, and what that meant was at the start, basically, the whole thing bugs out, and like you just can't complete the dungeon. Basically, the game doesn't know which sort of side your team's trying to play on, and you'll see actually there's 2 Hecate down here. Actually, they're fighting each other, but you can't fight the Hylek, sorry, should I say? But you can't kill them. They're basically invincible at the start. So like then you have to go back, but you can't just leave the dungeon. You've got to go right back to the outpost to abandon the quest and stuff. So just do be careful of that. But we go in again, and yeah, the run goes perfectly fine. I think once again we lose this race. We keep losing races. However, we will start winning them soon enough. So yeah, right now it's Monday. I've actually filmed both dungeons already, but I haven't done any post commentary yet. So yeah, we're starting with it now, and I think we're actually on to Char week as far as I'm aware, actually. For the thing, so last we saw was, and this was before Christmas, so no, we definitely did. So the last we saw was the script. Remember that article, those sneaky script by Rhys Sosby, and basically what happens after this? That was released on April 5th of 2011, and then you had a single blog post by someone called David who talked about how Ghost of Ascalon was nominated for a Scribe Award, which I guess it didn't win in the end, but it was nominated for one, and yeah, and then basically Char week starts off straight away. So we get a nice little introduction article for Char week, which I may as well read out. It says, "Blood and fire, prepare yourself for the coming of the Char legions. Char week has begun. All week we'll be taking a look at the ferocious feline Char, one of the 5 playable races in Guild Wars 2, here on the blog and on the website. We've got brand new lore, art, audio clips." So this is one thing, they do actually update on the website. Like on the website, if you go to the official Guild Wars 2 website, you'll see there's an area called like classes or professions, and there's also an area called races, and you can click that, and there are actual brief summaries of the races there, which I haven't been reading out on this blog post series, dungeon series. I haven't been reading those out on this because kind of you guys watching this probably have already got a pretty damn good idea of what the races are like, and you don't really need the overview. But if you guys feel like you want me to read that out loud, then sure, I'll go do it. I don't really mind, but I don't really think it's that relevant at the moment. There's also some cool videos that you can get on there that basically show off the starting areas. That bit of the main website's always the last one to be updated, which is quite cool. So that's the one everyone's always excited for, because we got to see sort of more footage of the areas, which is quite cool, obviously. I really liked it when the Ratassoum one came out, but the Ratassoum ended up looking quite different to how we saw it in the first trailer. But anyway, so yeah, we've got brand new lore, art, audio clip, fictions, interviews, and more Char stuff than you can shake an axe at, including a brand new Char video on Thursday. The Char first appeared in the original Guild Wars as the implacable foes of humanity, but a lot has happened in the 250 years between the first game and the time period of Guild Wars 2. The Char have rejected their false gods and embraced industry and technology with gusto, crafting devastating weaponry and incredible machinery. But Empire and expansion comes with a heavy price, and the Char of Guild Wars 2 are beset by formidable enemies on all sides. Okay, so this week we take a quick closer look at them. With the thunder of cannons and grinding of mighty gears, Char week is here, and we get some various concept art there, which I'll probably throw up on the video right now. So let's just crack on. Hold on, let me grab a glass of water. I don't know what it is, but recently when I've been filming videos, I feel like my mouth just like salivate a lot. It's horrible. As wonderful as that is, I'm sure that you all went to hear that, but it's like, it sounds like I've always got something in my mouth, and I don't. It's just kind of irritating. Anyway, so the first article was creating the Char starter area. Is this really very good for lore? Not really, I suppose. It talks about some of the starting areas. There's a place called Smokestead, and it talks about how they could kind of combine the old Ascalonian architecture, the ruins and stuff, with the new kind of recovering land. So there's sort of patches of green, but then there's also sort of all the industrial Char stuff and all the smoke and pollution crafting around, and it kind of makes this really weird kind of blend of environments in the early Char area, which is pretty cool. And it talks about some events, but you know, they're not really massive lore things. It talks about like a stampede of cattle and stuff that you can stop with your cattle prod, shit like that, but it's not really lore. So the next one is, as I said, like these weeks they usually end on like, there's only really 2 lore posts that are interesting, one that's got audio clips and one that's got a story. Scott McGough, I don't know, I think that might be McGough, on writing the Char. Okay, so here we go. This is probably the best starting one. We get a nice little picture of like a landscape there with some kind of spikes and dragon looking things coming out. And this is the lore post that's got lots of sound clips in it, so be prepared for those. I really like that now I know how to download them as well, because I really liked how the last one turned out, that we had little audio clips in there, and that really went quite cool. So he said, Scott here, representing the Guild Wars 2 design writing team. I'll be bringing you the latest dispatches from the furthest reaches of the Char Empire, because someone has to prepare you for the thing I'm looking forward to most. The bad guys from Guild Wars becoming a fully playable race in Guild Wars 2. I remember there's a few guys on the forums, they're probably still there and probably still going on about it, but there are a few guys on the forums that hate the fact that the Char are now like a good race or a playable race, and they're like, oh, what about the crate? Is Guild Wars 3 or the crate going to be playable and stuff like that? I quite like the idea that the Char, you know, they were the bad guys, now they're the good guys. I think it was a cool move for them to say, hey, look, the Char are playable, because it irritates me that we've got 5 new playable races for Guild Wars 2. And ArenaNet only chose, really, okay, at the time that they decided they wanted to make Guild Wars 2, they only chose one of those races to be one that already was established in the lore. The rest they invented. They invented the Asura and Norn and introduced those at the same time, and they've invented the Sylvari to be introduced for Guild Wars 2. So they've invented so many. I'm so glad that they actually picked the Char. I'm still a bit hurt, I guess we could say, that they didn't pick the Tengu instead of maybe the Norn or the Asura, and they decided to invent a new one. But, you know, if they hadn't picked the Char, okay, if they just invented another new race or gone with like the dwarves or something typical fantasy, that would have been so crap. If you think about it, how many other races actually in the existing Guild Wars lore before all this Guild Wars 2 stuff started coming around were of a different race and were allied with you all the time, or at least some of the time were allied with you? There aren't many. There's like the centaurs, there's the dwarves, and there's not really much else. There really isn't. Guild Wars 1's all about the humans, really. There's the Tengu, of course, but even they're not wholly allied with you. None of them are. Even the dwarves aren't wholly allied with you because of the Stone Summit. So you can always make the argument. I like that they went with the Char anyway. I'm not going to rant about it too much, but I like it. And this week just sort of expands on them and what they're all about in Guild Wars 2 so much more. So this first section is called Virtues and Vices. Our world designers, they say, and writers approach the Char with a certain amount of gusto. After all, it's just plain fun to write for the bad guys, especially when you get to explore their point of view, in which they're the good guys. We know some people will feel a lingering resentment of the Char, probably because of that whole searing thing, in addition to the gleeful anticipation of getting inside their fur. So, our guiding principle for writing them has been to delve into some of the unexplored Char virtues, such as industry, discipline, and fearlessness, along with their well-known vices, aggression, bloodthirst, and ruthlessness. They talk about, it might be in this blog post, or it might be a completely different one, or it might have been an interview, but I remember one of the writers was talking about how with developing the races and sort of trying to flesh out their culture, they base it all around some very principal concepts that they'd designated to each of the races very early on. So when they're saying like industry, discipline, fearlessness, these are like the 3 key words they associated with the Char, and all the culture and all the lore and everything that fleshes out the race were all sort of written around these 3 words kind of thing, and they did that with all of the races, which I think is quite cool actually. So like the Sylvari, for instance, would be curiosity or something like that, you know. Along with their well-known vices, aggression, bloodthirst, and ruthlessness. Balancing the admirable traits with the fearsome ones allows us to present a more complete picture of Char society without negating or retconning their violent history. Okay, cool. So, yeah, it would suck so bad if, oh, we're just going to retcon the searing, we're going to retcon everything. No. They did a minor retcon. It's not really a retcon, but they did add lore that kind of shifted it in a bit of a bad way. I think was a little bit of a cop-out really on them, where they added the lore that actually that Ascalon was Char lands originally. I think that was a little bit of a cop-out. It's not a massive deal. I don't mind that lore's there. I think it definitely makes the relationship between the humans and the Char, particularly where Ascalon's concerned, a lot more dynamic. But I tend to feel that people forget, they hear that fact though, and then they completely forget about the fact that the Char were attacking Kryta and Or as well, and they do generally just hate humans. It's not about just Ascalon, but as soon as that fact, that bit of lore was added, people just kind of forget about that. I do feel like we have to pay attention to the fact that the Char do just care about conquest and just owning everywhere. Anyway, so here's the first bit of dialogue called Virtues and Vices.
There's nothing like the smell of a fresh kill.
Fresh meat. Still fighting the good fight?
Fighting and winning.
Were you there when the market fire broke out last year?
I saw it. 5 Char, 3 buckets, and the fire was out in a matter of seconds.
They worked together like fingers on the same hand.